Good evening and welcome everybody to today's event on the growing role of data analytics in recruitment. I hope you came ready to learn because we have an amazing panel that's ready to help us unpack this conversation. My name is Pilin Kasara. I work at Seamless HQ, a company whose core belief is that people are an organization's most valuable assets and therefore develops innovations that help organizations win in the 21st century by unleashing the potential of these valuable assets. I will be co-hosting this session with Wendy Olwach, the CEO of Jenga School. Wendy, karibu sana. Happy to have you here. Karibu sana, Wendy. We're really happy to have you here. Please introduce yourself to our guests.
Sorry, Pili, I think I was having network issues there, or rather my machine was having an issue. But thank you so much. So my name is Wendy, as Pili has mentioned, and I am the CEO of Jenga School. So Jenga School is a professional development skills institution bridging a vital gap in the tech ecosystem. And I'm really excited, Pili, that we're actually having this conversation today. And we have an amazing set of speakers this evening. And this event is actually brought to you by Jenga School and Seamless. And here's a short video of who they are.
Welcome to Jenga School, a professional tech skills development institution focused on making Africa the engine room of tech talent to the world through rigorous programs in data science, data engineering, and software engineering. We offer a foundation in data science program, which is a 12-week rigorous data science course that will equip you with the skills needed to be a highly productive professional and the foundation to explore a career in data science. We also offer a core program in data science, which is a 12-month online course that delves in artificial intelligence and machine learning for both professionals and students. You are taken through our curriculum by our experienced PhD instructors, coupled with teaching assistants to support you through your learning journey. We value our students' career progressions and partner with industry mentors to help accelerate growth and corporate partners who have data science and AI needs. Our curriculum ensures that you gain business acumen, passion for the craft, technical and practical skills, communication skills, and finally systematic thinking to ensure you're proficient in the delivery of data analytics tasks. Apply today.
At the core of Seamless HQ is the belief that people are an organization's most valuable asset. Our goal is to help companies win in the 21st century through developing innovation that helps them unleash the potential of their most valuable asset, people. Our cloud-based HRM system is simple and easy to use and will help you automate all the HR processes that encompass the employee lifecycle from onboarding, payroll to leave, and performance management. We turn the pain of paperwork into a streamlined flow of data and eliminate manual tasks which increase your productivity. Cut down on unnecessary paperwork and focus on what's important. Get started with Seamless HQ today. Are you an innovation-driven HR professional looking for a community of like-minded professionals? Join a vibrant community of HR leaders to expand your network and to learn from the myriad of resources in the space.
Our first guest of the evening is the current head of talent acquisition Africa and India at SoccerWatch. She is a seasoned HR practitioner with more than 10 years of progressive experience working with international NGOs, social enterprises, and impact and corporate firms. She has a diversified background in, just to mention a few, talent acquisition, talent management, and succession planning, sourcing, and performance management. Grace Galati, karibu sana. We are so excited to have you join us.
Thank you so much, Billy. Happy to
How
be
are you
here.
feeling? Are you excited?
Yes, looking forward to learn more in this space.
Awesome, thank you. And then our second guest is the Group HR Director at Wananchi Group. He has over 15 years experience in the HR field and is extremely passionate about talent acquisition strategies that help organizations grow. Team Kajume, we are so privileged to have you join us. How are you feeling?
Good evening, Pili. Good evening, everyone. Feeling great and good to be here. Apologies, technology has failed me, so my camera has decided to fail me the last minute. But I guess we'll still continue.
No worries, we will still forge ahead. And then finally, our third guest is a specialist in HR analytics and has years of experience in recruitment and data analytics and is passionate about scaling the heights of the HR practice with integrity and passion. He also has vast experience in HR audit and recruitment and employee engagement and was actually runner-up HR Trendsetter of the Year in the recent HR Awards. Nelson, karibu sana, and thank you for taking the time. Nelson, karibu sana to the stage.
Thank you, Pili, and thanks to everyone for putting up this together. And I'm glad to be around today. Thank you.
Good,
Looking forward to the session.
good to hear you feeling ready. I know
Yes,
our audience
very
is ready.
ready.
Already see some people commenting on YouTube. We're really excited to have you. Do remember to tell us where you're tuning in from. We'd love to know, and also leave your comments and your questions down below so that we can also address them. So we'd like to start off, and considering our guests' vast experience in the HR industry, I'd just like for us to paint a picture of how the space has evolved in the last 5 to 10 years before we even go into the data analytics. And I'd like to start with Grace and Nelson, perhaps. Just tell us about how the talent acquisition space has evolved over the years.
Yeah, so over the last 5 to 10 years, quite a lot has changed, both for the positive and for the negative. And if I can just highlight some of the positives we are seeing, is that recruitment and talent acquisition has become very candidate centered, which was not the case before. We have also seen a huge push to diversity, inclusion, where you're seeing almost this all the job description asking for gender equity, asking for having disabled people apply. There's also what we're discussing now, high dependence on data. Decision making are basically based on the data, which was not something that was maybe well centered before. On the negative, though, we have moved to project-based hiring, where it creates a lot of instability. Many people have jobs for 1 year or 2 years. That's what the contracts reads, creating a lot of uncertainty. Unlike before 10 years, where you would have people with open contracts for open-ended and you can plan well. Maybe Nelson, you can add to it.
Okay. Yeah, just to add, talent acquisition has also revolutionized and moved further in terms of creating employer brand. So currently, we don't just look at recruitment as just bringing someone in, but also selling our brand as employers. And also another one is we look at it at where we first create the employee experience even before they join. So talent acquisition has brought about that aspect where we have to be careful on how do we treat our candidates even before they join. And this is supported also by our Employment Act. Then on the other side is that the pressure has become also too much on companies just to ensure that everything is accurate in terms of getting the right candidate, because knowing that nowadays applications are done, anyone can get anything online, and when applications are done now, at some given point, we have to struggle in screening and having proper candidates. So we've been going even outward to get extra support in terms of certifying the certificate that have already been given, because we are trying to bring in people from different sources. Yes, that's my input on the same. Thanks, Billy.
That's interesting. Team, you have been in the industry for over 15 years. Perhaps you could just mention a thing or two. It's indeed true that, the only constant thing is change. It's interesting to see just how much the industry has evolved over time. So maybe we can get some input from team as well, and then we can move on now to the rest of the session.
Just to add on what Grace and Nelson have said, the industry has evolved quite interestingly. Same as everything, and we are continuing to see how things are now evolving, especially in the last 1 year with COVID. But from the last 10 years to 5 to 10 years, as Grace said earlier, the focus has shifted from the organization to more of the employee, and this is more so because of let me call it democracy, where people now are more aware of their rights. This is the only time where I see people saying they want to choose an employer. Before, you were not choosing an employer. Now people say, I can choose an employer. 10 years ago, that was unheard of. This is a time where potential candidates ask you questions that otherwise would have been considered privileged information, and they want to know almost everything about the organization, as Nelson put it, in terms of employer branding, what is the opportunities available, and so on and so forth. 10 years ago, no one would have told you what your career progression was in an organization. If you're interested in a job, you come and you start, and you will see where you end up. Yeah. So there is a lot of change that we've seen. Again, the other major shift is also the kind of candidates that we are getting. When you look at most organizations now, when you look at the average age of the employees, a lot of companies that we're having now, let me even give an example of SoccerWatch, which is almost tech driven. When you look at the average age of the employees, is quite young, is below the age of 30. Same with the telecoms as to where we are. Now, we have to contend with dealing with millennials and generation X, Y, Z, and the others that are coming. And you have to be content with even how you treat them during an interview. 10 years ago, if you walked into my interview room with dreads, that was an automatic fail. I mean, chances are you not have passed the reception. Now you can easily walk into my interview room with dreads and torn jeans, and I would still be obligated to sit and have a conversation with you. So yeah, Pili, we can talk a lot that has changed in the last 10 years. So I'll just leave it there for the sake of time. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But one thing that has certainly not changed is the need to find the right people at the right time for the right role. So perhaps, Tim, you could also share some of your key talent acquisition strategies you use over at Wananchi Group.
Okay, thanks. Wananchi Group being a technology company in telecoms, one of the things that is or happens is when you look at the lifespan of employees is not, you're talking of an average of 2 to 3 years, which is the current lifespan of most employees, especially the young people in their 20s. So key strategy number one is planning. We have to plan ahead. We have to plan and know this year we need to recruit the following positions. At what point do we need to recruit them? We also have to factor in certain aspects as attrition. We need to understand what kind of attrition do we expect, and therefore we are able to plan ahead. By planning, then you're not caught flat-footed. That's number one. Number two is being able to identify what is your catchment area. So for us, we know very well if I need to quickly recruit whether they are techies or my engineers, I know very easily where to get them from in terms of the industry. So I know if I send out my advert to certain social groups or certain organizations, definitely I'm going to get some good candidates. So that helps me in my turnaround time in terms of recruitment. Third is keeping a database. I know this is almost as a cliche as people say, we'll put your CV in our database and in case an opportunity comes up, the script. But what I do personally is whenever I interview people, sometimes you come across very good potential candidates who may not be fit for that particular position that you're recruiting for, but they may be fit for another position that, or you think they may still be good within your organization. So for those, I only put aside those that I feel have got very high potential, such that when an opportunity arises and I know I had certain high potentials, then very quickly I go through that and I'm able to call them. We've already had a chat. I've already had that interaction with them. So the turnaround time also becomes much faster in terms of conversion. And then we also have the usual partnerships with people like Nelson in terms of recruiters, partnerships with people like LinkedIn and so on. Also, referrals are becoming quite a major strategy in terms of recruitment, especially when it comes to senior leadership roles. People want what they call tried and tested. So it's easier for me to call up Pili and say, Pili, can you refer a few people that you know who are good? These are the kind of caliber of people that I'm looking for. And the referrals then work much better. So those are just some of the strategies that we employ at Wananchi.
Oh, well, thanks for sharing. All right, I think now at least we have set the tone, can move to the conversations on data. And I was reading the other day, came across a survey done by Deloitte, and it indicated that 75% of HR leaders state that HR analytics are quite important, and 50% of them do not actually use these metrics, and 25 of those that do not analyze these metrics. So, Grace, can you tell us why you feel data is important in talent acquisition, and even go step further and talk about how data analysis has enhanced your talent acquisition process?
Well, thanks. I actually believe that data is important for everything. Having to working with making your decision based on data and the information that we have. Otherwise, if you remove that, then we'll be operating a lot around gut feeling. It will be a lot of emotions, and especially in the space that we work in, that people make the decision. So for me, data helps us even establish benchmarks of the work that we are doing. We're able to also monitor and measure what exactly we are doing, what are the expected results. You can only do that when you're looking at the data, where you began and where you're headed. Specifically, if I look into the talent acquisition, I think it's sort of data in itself removes the mystery in the recruitment process, right? You're very clear on what you're looking for, what kind of candidate, based on what are the data points that you would be looking at. And also, it also specifically for our organization, for example, it helps us anticipate the trends. This is external and internal. What is expected when we are doing even our workforce planning. Then also looking at the demand side and the supply side, which is outside. What are the new current market trends that we are looking at? But we can only do this if we have information and we have these data points. If I just as I had said earlier, it also removes emotions when we are making these decisions. See, we are recruiters, we are talent acquisition people, and we don't want to be working with, for example, hiring managers who hire based on a gut feeling, because then the skills is important, the ability we're looking for is important. But again, all this is based on data. So I think data is important not only in talent acquisition, but in very many aspects of a successful organization.
Amazing. I like the points that you've shared. And I'd love to also hear from Nelson and Tim Kajume. Why are we having this conversation? Why does data matter to you, Tim Kajume?
Because you cannot improve what you cannot measure. Yeah. First of all, we say you cannot measure what you cannot define. So first of all, you have to define, you have to be able to measure, and then from there you can be able to improve. Today's organizations are all about improvement. And therefore, in order for you to improve, you have to be able to have certain parameters that you are able to measure so that you are able to make the correct decisions, and you're able to, to just improve the process. So basically, from my point of view, it is for improvement purposes.
All right, great. And we'll go to what exactly we're measuring those metrics later on. But Nelson, please tell us as well why this conversation, as a HR analytics expert, tell us why we need to have this conversation on
Uh,
data.
I would say that according to Edwards Deming, he said that without data, you are just like any other person with an opinion. So we need to have that data with us so that we can always, and data will give us three things that we can always do with it. Can always just show whatever is happening. Yeah. It can also show whatever you have done. It can help you prove a point that you have, because sometimes you want to prove a point that we are losing so many people. So I'm continuously hiring. So people may not know that you're continually hiring. You don't tell them how many people you've hired in a given month or in a given week. Yeah. If you say that the skill that you're looking for is not available in the market, then you need to show how many people have applied for that position and how far and wide you have advertised for it, so that for you to come back and say that you don't have that skill in the market. So you are able to prove your point or support an agenda that you're having with the data that you have. So we need to continually talk about data and use it to show what we have. Yeah, it's the only thing that you can always do is just give out data and say this is it. Just like in accounts, if you go there without a receipt, then we don't know where we're going to place that in the ledger. Yeah, so we need our data also just to give us information on what's happening. Yes.
You reminded me of a quote that I really love. It says that in God we trust, but all others must bring data. But maybe as a follow-up question to Grace and team, I'm curious to know about a project you led where data and analytics played a crucial role. So maybe you could give us a practical example of that scenario.
Yeah, so if you came to my desk, I have data based on regions that we are working in, based on the role that we are working on, based on the function into the business. Say we are looking into marketing, we're looking into developers, we're looking into finance, the people department, and the like. However, if recently we have been recruiting for specifically India, and we had surprising data where we are talking about the conversion rate. So for this particular market, offer acceptance does not mean that the person will definitely show up. So we had to go back and relook into, when we're talking about offer conversion, if we're talking about a senior manager, if we're talking a middle manager, we're talking about a junior role, the conversion rate is different. If I could give a good examples for the as the senior role, as the senior they are, the lesser the conversion. So we looked for it over time, and we realized that if we are looking to hire, say, 5 senior managers or 1 senior manager, you'd need to have extended like 5 offers. So this still we had to go back as a talent acquisition team and advise on the different stages that we follow. If we're looking to pull in many people in level stage 1, then you'd have to have had 5 offers out for you to have 1 accepted. But this we could not have. It's not a conclusion we would have drawn if we didn't have the data to compare on this. So I think that is one area that the data, typical data in other markets is very obvious, and you'd think, oh, well, I know the conversion rate is 10% or it's 7% or it's 80%. But for this particular market, it was surprising from what our normal dashboards would look like.
Wow, I really like that example. And how about you, Tim? What's an example of a data-driven decision that you have made that has influenced your organization positively?
Okay. Thanks, Billy. As most of you would know, Wananchi Group, being in the technology space, Zuku is one of our brands, and I'm sure almost everywhere you go, you see our tents out there, you see our salespeople, promotion guys out there selling. A while back, we were having an issue with sales, and we could not understand why our sales were not growing as fast as we wanted to grow, in as much as we had gone into a project where we had recruited so many salespeople out there. So when we collected the data, it was interesting to realize that the reason why we were not selling in as much as we had recruited so many people at the same time is that there was very high turnover of salespeople. So we had to drill down again to ask ourselves, why are we having so many salespeople leaving the organization? And these are guys who are coming 2, 3 months, 4 months, and you understand in sales, by the time somebody gets comfortable and starts selling, it's 2, 3 months down the line. And when I drilled further into the data, now we realized that when we went into recruitment, so this is how I split the data. What is it, who the kind of salespeople who are leaving vis-a-vis the ones who are staying longer? What is the difference? And we realized that when we went to recruit, the key the push then was, we have so many graduates out there looking for jobs. Why don't we recruit all these graduates who are coming from the university, and they can come and they can be able to sell and they can be able to give us quality sales? Now, what was interesting is that we realized it is the graduates who are leaving employment within the first 2-3 months. The ones who are staying were non-graduates. These were people with either certificates, diplomas, or some even just had a Form 4 certificate. And when we analyzed back and we even looked at the data of some of the salespeople that we've had in the organization for much longer, we realized the ones who've been in the organization much longer joined the organization as non-graduates. So what we realized is that the ones who are coming in as graduates, their expectations were very different. And when they came, and within the first 1, 2, 3 months, most of them got disillusioned, or most of them got other opportunities which they perceived to be much better than being out there and selling. But the other ones who had diplomas and lower than that, this for them was now something they could make a career out of. And therefore, we had to quickly change our recruitment model and not focus on graduates, but rather focus on people who had other levels of qualifications. And since then, it has improved, and we've seen people staying much longer than they were staying before in the organization. Thanks.
I think now we can move to data in recruitment. And at Jenga, we always say data is the new oil, analytics is the combustion engine. So I'd pose this question to you, Grace. Some people would argue that not all data is useful. From experience, what analytics would you say matter the most? What should recruiters be measuring at this particular moment, especially this 21st century?
Yeah, so I would grade that into 3, right? I would look into the speed, I would look into the quality, and of course the cost, because each and every organization is looking to make profit. So cost is a big line item. So if I look into speed, here is when you're looking at the time to hire. So when a request is out, how long does it take you to fill the position? And then also in terms of communication, how long does it take for candidates to get their feedback? How long do you get to get feedback from also the hiring managers and anyone that you're working on that pipeline? When I also look at the quality is huge. Quality, you're looking at the conversion And when I say conversion, it means that from the candidates you're moving from stage 1 to stage 2, how many are going to that stage? How many are you meeting? How many interviews are you doing per hire? Right? Are you passing through 5 candidates to have only one, or are you passing 3 or 2 good candidates that in those 3 candidates you will get one? The other thing I would look at, another metrics I would look at talking to the quality, is the confirmation rate. Confirmation rate is among the people that you hire, you bring on board, how many pass through to their confirmation and probation period. But going to now the cost, you're looking at the cost of hire. Are you matching the market standards? Are you going for very expensive talent out there? And also looking into the cost, you're looking actually to the cost of that recruitment. How much time are your recruiters putting in? How much time are your hiring managers putting in? Because everyone time also ends up to being a cost to the organization. So I think those 3 major areas, and this data is very easy to get because you have it at the finger points, but some of it you need to go in and look into further for you to get insights out of. But those are the major areas that I would look out for.
Interesting. Right now, organizations are becoming more data focused and creating strategic goals with key performance indicators, the KPIs. If recruiters which of course recruiters are expected to keep up, what would you say is the difference between data and metrics? And this one, I'll like to pose it to Tim. What would you say is the difference between data and metrics?
Okay. I'll try my best to explain, but I think Nelson is the expert in this area, and he can be able to explain.
Nelson can also just jump in. No worries.
With formulas, but let me try and just break it down. Data is numbers, right? Is basically numbers, and we have numbers. You can derive numbers from anything, right? But the metrics that you're talking about is, I would say, putting meaning to those numbers, is when you go beyond just the numbers and you put some level of let me say meaning into those numbers that help you in terms of decision making. All right. So some of the metrics, let me give you an example so that just as I try to explain. And this is not so much in recruitment, but from an organizational perspective. One of the data that we can pull out, and you can ask any HR person and they'll quickly pull out for you, is, last year or this year or this quarter, we've had X number of sick leave days taken by staff. That's data. So then the question goes, then what next? So you've given me the numbers. Now, from where I sit at a strategic level, I need to turn that into a metrics that helps me make a decision. Now, when I look across the year, take for example 2021, and I break it down in terms of months, I break it down in terms of quarters, I look at the number of sick leaves that were being taken at each particular time, then it helps me understand certain trends within the organization. For example, I came to discover that we normally have more sick leave taken between April, August, and December. Why? Because this is mostly when children are at home. So parents will always take sick leave to go and take their kids to hospital. Also, whenever we have either major holidays and so on, we realize that thereafter the number of sick leave spikes. So how does that help me then make a decision? So what we do at a strategic level is to now drill it a little bit further and look at what is this that was taking people to hospital. Now, when we look at some of these things that were taking people to hospital, then I'm able to work with my medical provider. And what we do is then we start some kind of education to our employees in terms of, or when kids are at home, these are the main ailments that are taking them to hospital. These are mostly either respiratory issues or mostly stomach issues and so on and so forth. So by educating them, you're able to reduce the number of sick leaves that are being taken by your employees. Now, let me go backwards. Now, what does that do by reducing the number of sick leave? It means that you're reducing the number of off people are away from work, and therefore your productivity increases. It also means that you're saving on your medical because less people are going to hospital. Now, that is a metric. That is now putting meaning into that data that you got from the sick leave. All right. So I hope with that simple explanation, I've been able to differentiate what data and metrics is, and I'll allow Nelson to just now add in a bit of technical terminologies to it.
For sure. That has been very insightful. I didn't even know most people actually get sick between those months, April, August, December. So you were talking about the holidays. Insightful. Nelson, do you have anything to add on that?
Nothing much to add because Tim has made it clear and even gave an example. So what I would say that if I would make clear explanation to what metrics are, because data already is just piece of information that we have. So it can be in terms of numbers, pictures, whatever it is, that's that data that we're having. But now when it comes to metrics, I would always want to look at it vis-a-vis KPIs or key result, the key performance indicators or key result areas. So if you look at metrics, metrics will always try to measure something. Yeah, how far have you come? How many days have been taken? How many people have you recruited? How many people applied for that role? So those are metrics. So if we come to KPI will just set a standard. We'll set your target and say that you need to employ 50 people next year. So that's a KPI. So metric will be helping you measure how far are you from the target that you have. So metric is just a unit of measure that we define. And to make it clear, actually, it in HR we still have got thousands of metrics that are not aligned to each other because every company has got their own metrics that they track. But just let us know that ISO 3414 already came up with the metrics, though they're saying that it's not enough, but we can use it now just to regularize our metrics in our companies. Yeah. So that's much I would put. Yeah.
I like that. The fact that you've just said metrics is basically a unit of measure. A successful organization can only measure so many things well, and what it measures ties to its definition of success. In your experiences, and I'll start with you, Grace, what are sustainable practices for identifying and applying data to ensure successful businesses actually exist?
I think it's rather obvious. I would start by saying the minimum standard should be data that we have access to, that we have control with. And this is the talent acquisition data. These are conversion rate, response rate, interview per hire. The tougher data or safer data to look out for would be data that we don't have control over. And this is data that requires other people to give you insights into, and basically because some of these functions do not really care about what that you're looking for that information to do what, right? It's not in their in their interest. So how we can do this to do this successfully is to make sure that some of these stages are automated and require for you to fill a particular data point for you to submit, say, a document or something like that. But beyond that, we need to use the data that we have to advise on management. But again, as I said, data could be very good for any organization, but until there's something we are doing about that data that we are providing. If we are saying, oh, candidates are not very happy with our interview process, are the hiring managers looking to help you or looking to be trained to do this better, or they don't really care about that kind of investment? It's not in their mandate. So I have to say that data that would make an organization successful is first to heavily rely on what we have control over. It only becomes difficult for aspects that we need outsiders to fill in or to give us insights, and especially if they don't care about that process. I don't know if I've answered your question there.
Yes, you have. I had a question, but I'll throw this one to Tim. How can you rate a successful organization that uses data analytics in talent acquisition? What are some of the key distinctions that you see are?
Okay. One, I would say, is the process flow, is how they're able to understand that whole process of talent acquisition. If I go and do an interview with an organization that is relying on data or analytics or certain metrics, they are very process oriented because they have to derive certain data in order for them to be able to make certain decisions. I'll give you an example. I am sure if you did an interview with Grace, by the time you finish the interview, somebody is going to call you or she's going to ask you how the interview process was and so on and so forth. They have a certain way of doing things. They have a process. As she even talked about, they care about how candidates think about the organization and how they would be able to onboard candidates even before the candidates has passed the interview. Organizations that are not bothered about such data is a question of hit and run. I interview you. Have you met the qualifications? Yes, no. Tick a box, move on, and so on. So that process is important, and you'd be able to see. And an organization that is process oriented is a progressive organization. Secondly, is also the quality of how they conduct the interviews, the quality of also the candidates that they are looking for, the quality of questions that they ask, just basically the quality of the whole process. You can go for some interviews and you leave there wondering, do I really want to work for this organization? Even just the quality of the process in itself, it's so haphazard that it leaves you wondering whether that's the same company you see branding themselves out there or not. And then lastly, as we said earlier, is you cannot improve what you cannot measure. So organizations today are about improvement. So you can only be able to improve the quality of your recruitment or whatever else that you are measuring through understanding and getting the data. So that's what differentiates these two organizations.
I like that. You cannot improve what you cannot measure. I'm seeing a couple of questions coming up. Please continue interacting with us on our social media platforms. That is on Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And now I'd just like to hand it back to my co-host, Pili, before we start the Q&A session.
So I just have two final questions. And Tim talked about people leaving, and I was reminded that we're actually living in the era of the Great Resignation. And I want to ask about the impact of data analysis in talent acquisition on the staff movement within an organization. Do you feel like it's important to predict movement, promotion, demotion, layoffs, resignations, and the like? So maybe perhaps you can throw that question to Grace and Nelson, and then we'll go to tools and then invite the Q&A session.
Absolutely. I mean, internal movement is part of what informs our hiring needs, right? If I can give you an example of how we do it in SocoWatch, even before we start looking outside for external talent, we first look internally. Do we have people who have the capacity? Are there people interested? And it's only after we realize that we know that inside this person is not there, then we start looking outside. So also given the nature, if I can give a good example, the nature of soccer watch, it's really a tech space. So we are working, as Tim had said earlier, we are working with a very young workforce where duration for these people in an organization, they give you 2 years. If they give you three, then you're very lucky. What that means is that we start even
Just
forecasting and
ask one
predicting.
question.
Sorry? We start predicting for this, and it's this information that also feeds into other dockets. Say we are talking about career planning, we are talking about succession planning as well, to inform on those decisions. So internal movement and talent acquisition cannot not be tied together. It's one and the same thing. It's one of the many channels that advises the workforce that we are looking for.
Okay. To me, uh, I look at recruitment as starting from exit of an employee. So, and again, when we speak about turnover, I always feel as if it's about me because I've been moving a lot in the past few years. So, but then, as a HR, if someone is leaving, if someone is leaving today, then the question that you need to ask yourself, even before putting that advert out, should be that: am I looking at someone who is like Nelson at the time of leaving, or like Nelson at the time of joining? These are two different people, because when I came in, maybe it's 2 years time. When I came in, it might not be the same as the time I'm leaving. So as you go out to the market, so that you don't do so many interviews without getting a person, then you want to look at: am I looking to progress what Nelson has achieved for the last 2 years, or am I looking to build someone else to start again afresh, so that these are part that Nelson left, someone can take it over, and then the next person comes in and look at it. So that we are able to understand now who are you looking at, and that only brings about quality when it comes to recruitment. Then in terms of turnover, yes, we need to predict who is leaving next. I tried it some time back in 2020, and it really worked around 2019. It works out, and in that we do a lot of maths again, because someone leaving is not just because they've got another job. Getting another job somewhere or going for personal businesses starts from so many years behind, because if someone joins your company, they've already given you 2 years, so they already have a plan of leaving you. So it means that you have to look at so many factors, because someone leaving involves about their engagement with the supervisor, with the team members, the pay that you are giving them. All these factors, when you put them together, even the work quantity and quality that you expect, will let someone think of them leaving. Today I read something from Oracle. It was just my email title. They were saying that employee want to stay with you, but are you giving them a reason to? Yeah, so they left it at that point. So he said that when we come in as employees, we're looking at staying, but again, but again, we don't want to stay for 3 years, 2 years. We want to stay maybe forever if possible, but we're giving you time of 2 years, 3 years. Then, what factors do you need to put in place that will enable Nelson to accomplish at least these 3 years? And even as a company, what is the strategy? What are you looking at? Are you also looking at that level? Have you understood that your workforce lives in 3 years, and what is the benefit? Because again, not everybody who is leaving your company is living as a liability. Some of them, when they leave, you say, "That's well done. It was long I waited for him to go, so that we can bring in someone new or someone fresh with fresh ideas, so that we can move forward." So these two items are interlinked, and they are one. If you're managing your acquisition very well, then you are looking at the end of it, which is someone leaving. If you look at someone leaving, then you look at the next person. How are they going to come in? How are they going to stay? So yeah, that's a bit of it.
Thank you for those insights. So, final question, I'd like to direct it to Tim Kajume, and I'll combine it. So, first of all, talk about the tools and platforms that you'd recommend that give data-rich insights. So what should we be looking for when we are sourcing for these tools? And then combine it with advice that you would give to an organization or individuals who are looking to implement data analytics, say in a growing organization that probably that has limited resources to, go out and purchase those huge systems.
Okay. Thanks. My recommendation is start small. All right. Because when it comes to understanding data and analytics and metrics, it's not about the quantity of data that you get. It is the quality of data that you get and what you're able to measure. Okay. It's the same. I'll give this example. Most organizations go out and buy huge ERPs that can do magic, yeah, to the organization. But out of the modules that they have in those ERPs, how many modules are they using? You find probably they're just using 2 or 3 modules. The rest are just lying idle. They're not being used. So I always encourage people, start small, start understanding. Nelson explained about matrices and KPIs. The first thing that you need to do as an organization is to start by defining the KPIs that you want to measure. Okay. If it is in talent acquisition, what are these KPIs that you want to measure? And they don't all come together. They have to grow gradually. So you start small, put for yourself 1 or 2 KPIs for this quarter, and then grow into more KPIs into the next half year, and so on and so forth. And then as you are growing and understanding these KPIs, then you see you measure 2 today. Once you're comfortable with that, you move to the next 2, to the next 2, and so on and so forth. So my advice is start small, build from there as you understand what also fits and works for your organization. And then once you get to a certain level where you are now dealing with a lot of data, then you can now start employing, the use of AI tools and other, things like predictive data tools and so on, and also using now consultants like Nelson, who can now be able to take it now to the next level. So I think I'll leave it at that and ask Nelson to add on to that.
Okay, Tim, you put it well. Starting small here, for any organization, I would expect that you use Excel. Microsoft Excel is so powerful, and the beauty is that you can start from simple basic Excel, moving to advanced, to intermediate, then advanced. It will give you a good background so that you get to learn, because all the systems that you always see, the big one that you see, they're starting from Excel, so that someone goes in and add more formulas and say that this is a new system called Power BI app. So if you can have basic skills on Excel before you even go to a data science class and understand it better, yeah, from Jenga, then Excel will help us most as a simple tool. Another simple tool that you can also use now as your database should be Microsoft Access, or you can use MySQL. So if you have advantage of those two, yeah, as the tools, then you are able to start off, because that's where we started off. Then from there, now you can move to Power BI app for just the presentations. Then you move to Tableau. As you move forward, then nowadays I believe that people are developing systems that are able to give reports, are able to provide analytics, yeah, so that you don't have to cram so many formulas. You don't have to remember all formulas about our metrics, because we say that we have so many metrics, yeah. And if you look at predicting someone who has left, is a lengthy formula in terms of getting into who is leaving next. Yeah, what is the probability of someone leaving? So we're starting simple and starting with Excel and Access. So from there, I believe we can always build a base and then now move to the with the other softwares. But more and more data accuracy and data completion to the end will bring more value to your data than any other thing. Yes, thank you.
I absolutely agree with that. And just a reminder, drop in your questions. I see a couple, and I'll begin with one. I wanted to talk about the future of recruiting, and I see Anthony Gishamba has already asked a question. He says, as we look into the future, we realize that automated decision making with a pinch of AI is at the center of recruitment. How will the implementation of recruiting analytics impact the use of automated decision making? So perhaps either Nelson or Tim can take this one.
I'll start and then Nelson can build on it. The way organizations have changed or the way they're evolving now, in fact, it's going to be the other way. It is not the AI that is going to be driving it rather than the changes in the organization. Right now, things like work from home, quite a number of organizations now have decided their employees to more or less permanently or semi-permanently work from home. It means that that face-to-face interaction, human-to-human interaction that used to be there previously has been removed from that equation. Then what happens next? Then it means that organizations now are going to be relying or are being forced to rely more on data than before. And therefore, they have no choice than to start relying on this data and understanding what AI can do for them moving forward. Nelson?
Okay, yeah, just to add on is that AI doesn't operate on its own. It needs data. So this data it is us who need to give it data so that it can learn from it and give us something out of it. So first we must get that data accurate, and that's where you find that actually even today we are using AI in terms of the system where people do apply. System can either reject you or match your CV. That's AI because it has been told, do this for me. So as HR, for us to implement AI effectively in talent acquisition, then we must understand talent acquisition in its fullest forms and meaning. What is it all about? What is the output we are looking for? So that when tell it to gather some data and work on it and give you insights on the same, then it has to be the one that gets correct information. So we can start on it on the basis on the basics of computing. We were saying that garbage in, garbage out. So if you tell your AI something wrong, they'll give you the wrong thing. Don't know whether you've seen these memes of where you are having some popcorns and even some cookies with some black things. Then the AI say that looks like a puppy, and they say and then the AI says that's a puppy. So if it doesn't define your TA very well for the AI, then you won't get quality. So the first bit is HR need to understand what AI needs to do for them or for us, and then now, if we implement it in talent acquisition, then it will work for us. Yes. Really?
All
Thank you.
right. I'm seeing a question here from Mary. This is on Twitter. She's asking, how often should you review TA analytics with hiring managers? So maybe I can start with you, Grace, and then Tim, and then Nelson, you can plug in.
So I think if we're looking at the hiring plans, it should be as regular as possible because these things, they guide you, but they are not set on stone, right? Businesses change, objectives change, targets do change. So this is something that we should keep on reviewing every now and then. So specifically for us, if you have a pipeline live, for example, we do usually check in with the hiring manager on a weekly basis. If not, depending on how soon you need to fill the role, even every 2-3 days. But if you're looking at a hiring plan, it also depends with the hiring plan is for how long? Is it the next 6 months? Are you looking? Is the hiring plan for the next 1 year? So I would say this should be happen as regularly as possible.
All right.
For me, they need to be tied in together with the other KPIs that are being measured. So if I have a hiring manager or a talent acquisition manager, there are those matrices that I have, or KPIs that I have set for them that they need to achieve, which are measured either on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, half yearly, and so on. And these are the same ones that come up during the appraisal period. So they need to be internally. Yes, you can tweak them as often as you want, but definitely there is the larger KPI that you need to be looking at, which is then measured together with your usual appraisal cycle.
Nice. I have one more question for Nelson. It's directed to Nelson. It says from Linda on Twitter. She said, Nelson, I read your article on analytics and found it quite insightful. Please briefly share with us about what predictive analysis is in talent acquisition and what you can measure and improve using predictive analytics.
Okay. Thank you very much, Linda, for reading that article. I think that's when I was still starting to show that I have something that I can share with the world. So, when talking about predictive analytics, here we are looking at the future, just to forecast the future. So, if you are having average number of our employees to be 80 employees, yeah. So we know that every given time it will be 80. So even in 2030 should be 80. So for us to predict in 30 years time, in 2030, then we need to look what factors might lead to the change of the 80 number now. So will it go up or will it come down? So we need to look at factors that affect employee count in our company. So let's say that we're when a company that provides services in terms of food. So we look at it and say that in 2030, will we still be selling food at the same shop, or we are going to have more shops, or now we'll be going online. So if we go online, who will we declare redundant in 8 years to come? Or if we're going to open more shops, how many people are going to hire? So by that, we're just looking at the future and trying to use whatever we have currently, and see how is our current numbers going to be affected by the future. I know we might be affected by some of the calamities that are in between. A calamity like corona, like COVID-19, which came in and people didn't think about, which can actually affect your predictions, yeah, because they come without you thinking about them, how they might turn out. Politics can also affect your predictions they change more so in our country. But I know some places politics is just a normal thing that continues. But for us here, things can also affect. So in terms of predicting, in terms of key TA, here I'm also looking at it in terms of if already we've known that our employees only stay for 3 years. So have we started courting more employees to accept our offers? Do we have a pipeline? Yeah. So for someone in TA, at talent acquisition manager, expert, and all that, if you're having a pipeline, then you're already living a predictive model of the talent acquisition analytics, because you've already seen that my people leave after 2 years. So in 2 years' time, I already have 3 people who are willing to work with us in these positions. Yeah. And I've been tracking them, we've been talking to them. So we understand that this person actually will one day work with us. And I think I saw it with one manager who eventually I came and worked with in 2020. That's I would just mention his name. He's called Greg. Greg started talking to me in 2018 when we met, and now we are discussing things in HR. But I could tell him, okay, we can work together, but then for now, I don't think so. Maybe in 2 years' time, check on me. I think you shall have been able to improve your pay, your benefit, and all that. So I think with that one, we are able to, as a TA, you're able to quote someone, even know their expectations, so that when you go back, you develop a talent pool fit for the role, the person you are looking at. So that's what I'll talk about in terms of predictive analytics. So anyone who is doing a TA now and has got a pipeline or has got a talent pool is already living the predictive model without doing maths on that. Yeah.
Great, interesting. There's a question here from Joel. It might not be directly related to what we've been talking about, but I believe you can be able to give rather give him insights on this. So the question is, how do you break the cycle of I don't have a job because I don't have experience, because I don't have a job because I don't have experience? I think he repeated himself. And does working online count as relevant experience? So maybe the few of you can answer this as we wind up. I'll start with you, Grace.
Yeah, we are always in trouble for this particular aspect of experience, not having experience. But I think organizations are now looking into internship programs where you can go in and you try out something. So basically, I think for this particular area is looking out for experience. And I think nowadays where we are moving into where there's working online and working of offices, this is something that should always add up on your CV, that should count on as experience. However, I keep on saying, and this is my mantra, that we hire attitude for skills we can train, right? For me, even as I interview, I always am very keen on looking at the attitude of the candidate I'm working with. I believe most of the things that we do, experience is good because I don't think most of the things that we do is rocket science. But if you have the right attitude and you're able to present that even in an interview process, you can definitely nail a job at it. Anyone else can add on to that?
All right, Tim, then we'll finalize with Nelson.
There's a quote that says that experience is not how long you've done something, but what you've learned from what you have done. So you can do something for a few months, but the experience that you get out of it is much more than what somebody else has been doing for a couple of years. Grace has touched on attitude. Yes, attitude is important, and we can always train when it comes to skills. But I always tell young people, especially when you're preparing to get into the job market, number one, prepare. When you go for interviews, prepare well. When you come in there and you cannot be able to answer or explain simple things, because when we look at your CV and we call you for an interview, we can tell from your CV you don't have much experience, but we hope that you have the knowledge and the aptitude to be able to understand what we do as an organization and for you to be able to learn. So when you come, please be well prepared. The other thing which I also tell young people is and is very keen now, and especially when we are also looking at things to do with data analytics, AI, and so on, and especially predictive analysis, is be very aware and cautious of what you're doing on social media. Because today, employers are also using things like social media to look at what kind of personality are you, what kind of a person are you, because we are looking for certain qualities, certain personalities who can fit in within a certain culture in our organization. So if your social media or LinkedIn and so on are showing something totally different, it means that when we get certain data, and if we are using certain tools to be able to analyze you, it may give us a total different picture of what or who you are, and you may jeopardize your opportunity of getting a job. Those are just some of the tips that I just give when people are trying to get ready for the job market. But what he asked in terms of working online, yes, it is work, yeah. And as long as you can be able to show what you have learned from that job that you've been doing and how it can be able to help you fit in within our organization, why shouldn't I give you a job? Yeah. Yeah.
I agree.
I
Nelson?
think working online is a relevant experience. Even now we are online. Yeah, there's nobody physical in any office. We're in all of us are online. I remember when I went for some gig somewhere and someone referred me there and they asked me, so how long have you been training on data analytics and where have you trained? I told the person that I've been training them on WhatsApp. So the guy looked at me and said, so that's where this person believed that you have the experience. I said, yes, because I don't think I've done any training physical because it was during Corona period. I'd not done the the Zoom by then. I only had a WhatsApp group for doing these trainings. So when the guy said that I was very good and forwarded me for a gig, then I said that I've been doing it on WhatsApp. So Upwork is known for online jobs. Is a good place that if you go and say that you are in Upwork, it's appreciated. People make a lot of money from that site. So I'm just trying to look at this person with Upwork account because I've tried there and I couldn't get one. But with my WhatsApp skills and WhatsApp training, I could get a gig. So keep up the good work working online. Only that is that you have to show that you are doing something. If need be, you can pull out the report from Upwork and show that I've been able to do seven able to complete 7 orders in Upwork, which relates very well with your job. I think I took the screenshots of people's comments on how good the analysis was, and that one gave me something. So I believe working online is is a relevant experience now than it was before. But how to break the cycle, I don't know. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Nelson. I definitely agree. In this era, digital age era, don't see why online work wouldn't count as relevant experience. But thank you so much. I see we have exceeded time by 13 minutes. Really sorry for that, but it has been such an insightful conversation. Thank you so much, Grace, team, and Nelson for coming on board and engaging us. And just a reminder, we will be playing a couple of videos afterwards, so please don't leave. But if you're a HR professional who is watching this show, I'd like to invite you to join our community of vibrant HR professionals, where you can get to meet other like-minded, innovation-driven HR professionals and learn and network. So do join our community. The links will be right on the channel Seamless HQ. And if you're looking for HRM software that is simple and easy to use, Seamless HQ is your plug. Over to you, Andy.
Fantastic. This has been a very insightful session, Pili. I'm just looking at my notebook and it's literally so full with wisdom nuggets. I'll just like to wind up by saying in the 21st century, all organizations will need to invest in employee tech skills development as a strategic initiative. And at Jenga, we offer programs in data science. We have a foundation course, especially for professionals who want to learn more about data. And it's only 3 months. And what you can do is you can check out our website, that is www.jengaschool.com. And as I wind up, I'd like to say we believe, especially at Jenga, data literacy is a culture and a mindset and just not a skill. Over to you, Pili.
Thank you. We have come to the end of the session. Thank you so much for tuning in from wherever you are watching us from. We are so grateful. Just a couple of minutes left and then we will close the session. But thank you so much for tuning in. Video.
My name is Tabitha Mathu. I'm a graduate of the Foundations course at Jenga School. I'm a banker by profession, and mostly I deal in sales. So I have no background in IT or any coding. My productivity at the workplace has increased. After the foundations class, definitely I'm a better professional. I'm able to synthesize data reports. We get a lot of reports every day. So now I can understand the back end of these reports and then interpret them. The highlight in this class was at one point, the course got so hard and I felt like quitting or giving up. However, the instructor and the teaching assistant were very very patient in enabling me to synthesize the information, considering I did not have any background knowledge on coding and IT. Therefore, the highlight for me was being able to pick myself up and complete the course. I enjoyed the industry lectures, and particularly one Nigerian lady told us how to apply this course from start to end.
We have come to the end of our show tonight. I hope you learned a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in. We have had so much fun and gained a lot of insight. Thank you so much to our speakers and have a great, great night. Over to you, Wendy.
Thank you, and to have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.
Bye.